Alrighty, welcome everyone to the garden show this morning. It's a beautiful day here in the Okanagan. Looks like we're going to get a little bit of sun. I'm not actually up to date on what's going on in the Victoria area, but I'm hoping it's good there. It's relatively mild. And it sounds like I think we have Don Burnett on the line. Don, are you there?
I am here, Ken, and boy, I'm looking forward to next week when we can be sitting together again physically.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. I'm down at the show, the Gardening into the Future Kelowna Garden Club celebration here at the Trinity Church, and it's a packed house. It's going to be a packed house, and the folks are just showing up now for the various booths, the Bonsai Club and the Orchid Club, and all sorts of people are going to be doing their thing. And, of course, you're going to be doing your thing later on today.
Yep, you betcha.
And it's very exciting. Lots of hustle and bustle here. They put a lot of effort into it, and it's going to be very, very worthwhile for people. But, Ken, let's get the show going.
You betcha. Well, we'll go straight to the tips and plants of the week.
Perfect.
You're up, Don.
Okay, well, thanks, Ken. My tip of the week is clean, clean, clean. To prevent disease issues with cuttings and seeds, be sure to make all your containers, tools, and soil hospital clean. Very important. You'll be actually talking about that today as well at the show today. This week's plant is another genus. It's Euphorbia, and it's a huge genus. Just hundreds and hundreds of different species in this genus, including the Poinsettia, which some people don't realize is a Euphorbia as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's actually a wonderful family, and I'm sure whatever we expand on today, we'll be expanding more on that in the future as well, because it's such a great plant family. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that growing plants has found to have a profound benefit to your life. And it's one of these things that you don't really realize, but having house plants around or growing seedlings and cuttings and that sort of thing just really makes you feel good inside. And again, I think it's very, very beneficial to do. So grow some plants. Do grow something. Go pick up a house plant if you don't have any, or plant a few seeds. Just about anything will do, and it'll start working for you. All right, now my plant of the week this week is the parsnip. And the lowly parsnip, easiest vegetable, I think, to grow. You know, a root crop is one of the tastiest ones that you can get. And, you know, the reason it's my plant of the week is because I just ate my last group of parsnips out of the fridge from our garden last year, and they are just so delicious. The homegrown ones, that's the way to go. And, man, they are easy to grow from seed. There you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
Right on, Ken. Yeah, it's just great to be back in Canada. We were down there last week to the Seattle show. It was a fabulous show, as it usually is, and we enjoyed it very much. We're glad to be back, though. I'm just excited about spring. Well, the show in Seattle, the theme was I love spring. Yeah. And you can't say that enough. We love spring. Gardeners especially love spring. And it's around the corner. It smells like spring. I heard the lowly flicker the other day, and that is always a harbinger of spring. Years ago, we had a contest on the radio to who could give the best flicker sound. And boy, some of them were pretty good. In fact, some of them I thought they actually had a flicker on the other end of the phone.
Yeah, there you go. Well, was there? What were your highlights of the show this year? Were there a couple things that were just standing out, like outstanding?
Well, of course, always the landscape displays have always been fabulous, and the plants again. I was looking for that petunia that you had as the plant of the week a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't see any sign of it. But I was going to steal some cuttings or something. You know, gardeners, we steal cuttings. No. I'm not going to promote that. The trade show was very, very good. Lots of quite a few new lots of pottery. Lots of pottery this year.
Okay.
It's pottery seems to be making a resurgence. for a while there, pottery was not as commonly seen at these places as it has been years ago. In the 70s and 80s, it was very, very popular. And then it kind of waned a bit. And then now there's some beautiful, beautiful work. Lots of woodworking places where people are doing, woodworking, various things with their boards, their cutting boards and things like that. And a lot of unique stuff that we you don't see. One of the highlights, of course, always with the trip is going to see Brian Minter on the way back.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
His place is looking great. He's looking good, and he gave us a talk there that was very, very exciting. He's been to Europe recently, and he was explaining how Europe is always so far in advance of what goes on in North America. Yeah. In the gardening aspect, in horticulture and whatnot, both in the growing aspect of the large commercial growers and the actual retail plants and gardeners in general. I remember years ago the Dutch, they called them the Dutch houses, where they were gutter-connected houses. That was formed in Europe, and now it's very commonplace here in Canada to see those gutter-connected greenhouses. So he had a really nice, always an inspiring talk from Brian, and we had a nice group with us, a really good group on the bus. Everybody behaved, of course, and we had a great time. And this event today here, Ken, is just going to be fabulous. Pretty much booked up as far as the speakers go. Yeah. But the trade show, the one where out front where all the booths are, people are welcome to come and wander through that show. And it's free of charge. There's no charge to come to see the various clubs, the Bonsai Club and the Orchid Club, and I'll go up there right now. I'm in the main hall here, and I'm going to go out and wander through the trade show area just to explain what's going on there. But we do invite calls to the show this morning, because that's what makes the show go is our callers, and we really have enjoyed having the Victoria folks. Now, I was speaking to the Butcher Gardens booth in Seattle.
Yes. Yep.
And the gentleman there right away, he says, "Oh, you do Ken Salvail's garden show with him?" I said, "Yeah, I do." So
I'm getting very famous.
Cool. So you've been in contact with him, and we're going to maybe have them make an appearance on the show to promote the gardens and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. Was that, I'm trying to remember his name. Was it Ricardo? Or
I can't remember his name. I've got a T-shirt coming in right now. It says, "If you were a plant, I'd remember your name."
Yeah. There you go. Well, if you've ever been to Bouchard Gardens, you'd remember it for sure. And it's such a beautiful place. And if we can get somebody on there just to get us up to date on what's going on out there and what's going to be new and exciting for this year. I'm sure it's in bloom right now. I mean, does that garden ever really shut down?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the other botanic gardens that I want to go see is the Alaska Botanic Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
And Patrick Ryan, who was on the show not too long ago. Yep. And he gave his talk on making hypotuca planters. We had a nice chat, the two of us, and he stayed down there in Seattle for a few days to watch the Kraken play against Vancouver.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they won, too. There you go, eh?
They did, yeah. Poor old Vancouver right now is sliding a little bit, but...
oh, yeah. It's a long season. They always get a lot of jabs, people, as soon as they start to drop off a little bit. But you know what? It's a long season, and it's hard to play that hard every single night.
Yeah, I think they're relaxing before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my plant of the week, euphorbia. What a great, a lot of euphorbias originate in Madagascar. And as you know, Ken, both of us really appreciate Madagascar plants. They're very unique in many ways. And And there's lots of euphorbias that come from Madagascar. Mm-hmm. But, of course, there are euphorbias such as the poinsettia, which come from North America. So it's one of those things that euphorbias are found all over the world, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different shapes and sizes of euphorbias out there. Like I've got some that are just so unique and different. Some of them have thorns, some of them do not. But they're all succulent. They're all succulent plants. So, anyway, good genus, and I'm going to do the genus of the week for the next few weeks here now. Probably never run out of genuses to put forward, but this is the one this week is euphorbia.
Well, that sounds great, Don. Well, we're going to be taking a short break here, so you're going to be hanging on for a bit, or what's your schedule?
I'm with you.
All righty. Okay, well, we are going to take a short break, so we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. All righty, we are back, and we have Don calling in from the Garden Club's 100th anniversary.
Also, it will.
He's busy chatting. Look at that. Oh, chatty Cathy out there. That's all good. Okay, well, it's one of those springs we're having, and what a great opportunity for people who do want to stop down. It's down at the Trinity Baptist Church. They're down on the corner of Spall and Springfield. So if you know where that is, that's where they were doing a lot of the immunizations and whatnot in the past, and it's such a beautiful facility there. And that's where they're having the event, and there's going to be all kinds of booths set up through there, and it's just going to be a real fun event. So we're looking forward to doing that. I'll be speaking there today, somewhere, I believe, at 1 o'clock, so just after lunch. And, it's going to be a fun day. Lots of stuff to learn. I would recommend that anybody who does go bring some notepads to take notes, because it's going to be one of those things where you're going to get buried in plant tips, that's for sure. So, Don, are you there?
I'm here. I was chatting with Linda from the garden club there.
Oh, there you go.
And there's so much activity going on down here. We've got Martin and Don from the bonsai club right now setting up. They've got some beautiful plants here, and they're going to tell you, when you come by the booth, they'll tell you all about the club, the history of the club, and what it does and activities, and lots of fun there. We've got the orchid club set up there as well, and we've got all sorts of things. Backyard bees. We've got backyard bees of North America.
Oh, cool.
Set up here, which is really exciting, and it's it's a beehive of activity right now going up. You can tell. You can hear things going on.
So do you have the opening, like the times today? Like it starts, I think, at 9. Does it? Do you know?
Right. Just hang on. I've got all that down here, but
we'll confirm
that. Doors open fairly soon now. The first talk is Mario Lantier speaking at 9:30, but the doors open at 9 this morning, and so people are welcome to come. And as I said, we have to really focus on the fact that there's this wonderful. Well, we're calling it a trade show. It's just a show of booths of various things. I mentioned a couple of them already. They're talking about recycling their food waste. There's one booth for that. Very, very interesting things set up here. So the doors open at 9, and all of that I just mentioned is free of charge. The tickets that were sold online allow folks to get into the speakers. And we have Mario Lampier speaking at 9:30. We have Sigrid Kendrick from the OXA, the Xeriscape folks, from 11 to 12, and we've got Ken Salvail, my best buddy, from 1 to 2. And Laverne de Jaeger, 2:30 to 3:30. And Laverne was on our bus trip with us to Seattle, so it's kind of fun to have her here. And she's a master gardener.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, that's fabulous. It's going to be one of those great shows, and like I said, bring notepads, because you're going to have a lot to write down, because there's a lot of information going on, and the majority of it's all free. All those people are giving out informations, demonstrations, and I know Laverne is doing some planters as well. So he's got his bench set up there, and so it's going to be really an awesome event.
Yeah. Well, it's lots of activity going on right now. Everybody's getting set up. Just want to mention, Ken, I've been the last couple of weeks I've been sort of dabbling and working on my kiwis and grapes, and I've got them all finished now. I'd love you to come by and have a look at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I started this program a year and a half ago. Well, not last season, season before. I started working my vines so they came up over my kind of an arch instead of along laterally, arch up, so that they're creating a nice shaded area there. And it takes time. You can't just do this overnight. These things is like training children.
Yeah.
You've got to start early, and that's what we've done. I've done now this with the grapes. I sort of let them go nuts for a while, and now I've got them under control, and they're looking really, really good. I think once they start leafing out in that, it's going to be quite a nice show there.
Yeah.
And the wood is getting older, and it's going to be. In fact, by the time I'm finished, you could almost take down the support, and the grapes are going to be supporting themselves. But we won't do that. But that's how it's like a wisteria. I've seen that happen where people have a wisteria growing up a pole and or a post, and they train it into a tree. And I've seen them freestanding of wisteria with a trunk on it 5 or 6 inches in diameter, going up, and then like an umbrella coming over. Fabulous display. But it takes time and thought to get that done.
Yeah, you betcha. And we've been doing videos along the way there, and I've really appreciated that, being able to do sort of a series of videos on the kiwis and on the grapes and how to train them there. And they turned out, I thought, fabulous last year. But this is really the year when they're really going to come through to fruition. You're going to get your framework exactly where you want, and it's going to be really cool.
Well, as you can probably hear, this place is buzzing with activity. It's just fabulous. We've got some, when I mentioned a few months ago, I mentioned the tower planters here, and we've got a display of those with beautiful showing of lettuce and other green vegetables growing out of them. Really exciting. There's so much going on. I'm actually pleased and not surprised because the Garden Club has been in business, in active business for 100 years this year. This is their 100th anniversary.
Isn't that amazing?
And, yeah. So they put on a show. I'm going to go into another room where it's not quite so loud.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm just going to have a quick chat here with this gal with the Native Bee Society. We're on the radio. We're on the radio right here. And your name is?
I'm Elaine Sedgman, and I'm from Kamloops.
From Kamloops.
Oh, nice.
But I'm representing the Native Bee Society of BC.
And this backyard bees of North America, these are all bees that live in...
Okay, not all of these are here in BC. No. But these are. I can watch it.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, so you can see how tidy things are.
So we've got a wonderful selection here, Ken. And of course, anybody that comes to the show, they don't have to have a ticket to the actual speaker part. They can wander through this wonderful display of bees and orchid club and bonsai club. This is really great. I'm going to come back and talk to you later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, well, that's something we get a lot of questions about is bees, especially the mason bees, so that might be an opportunity for people to get caught up on that particular topic for sure. Somebody who knows the bees.
Yeah, I've got a contact now in Seattle, and we're going to have those folks on the radio coming up fairly soon now because
nice.
Mason bee season is there. It's probably there already in Victoria, but so here I am in the main hall again where you're going to be speaking, and all the chairs are lined up. It looks really good down here. This is very professional, very exciting for the Garden Club. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, it's such a great facility. Well, that's cool, Don. And so anything else about the Seattle show that you can fill us in on? I remember the one year we went down, there was just a few displays that were just knocked our socks off. And I think, do you remember the giant orchid in the big glass cage?
Yes. That was
the Darwin orchid. Yeah, that was just unbelievable. It was shocking. I had to take a bunch of videos and pictures and everything of it, and I was still when I got back, I remember I was just talking about like, wow, that was just unbelievable. That one display just knocked my socks off.
Well, and a lot of the talks of speakers were talking about sustainability and in gardening, and it's very, very similar to what's going on here today in Kelowna, gardening into the future, because gardening has definitely changed over the years, and the focus is there's lots that is the same. I mean, we garden today just the same reason we gardened 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's such a pleasurable thing to do. It's good for the head, good for the mind, good for the body, good exercise. Heavens, just out pruning my grapes and kiwis up and down the ladder and all that. You know, it's exercise. People don't realize how much exercise it is, and it's really good. But it has changed. It has the focus on gardening is changing. As the demographics change, lots of young people. I notice lots of young people here today, and that's really encouraging to see. We always often over the years thought gardening is for old people. No, it's not. It's for young people. It's for every generation of persons, both male, female, and any other thing in the world. It's just a great thing to do. And it's going to be a good day today here. We're going to be, and the weather is good right now. I have to say, it's now we're 2.5 hours longer than we were in December 21st.
Yeah.
So the days are getting longer very quickly now. Yeah. 2.5 hours longer, and you feel it. The plants in the greenhouse feel it. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what happens. Is it speeds up for a period of time. It sort of goes slow through the slowest, longest period or shortest days, and it speeds up right at this point, and then it slows down as it meets its peak a little bit later on. But yeah, it's awesome to be at this time of year and to be able to see plants responding. Some people are a little concerned about things shooting up. Here we are in February in the Okanagan anyway, that there's still, we had I was +6 when I drove in this morning. So you can just imagine, like, the plants are thinking it's spring for sure, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't get a big blast.
Well, it's going to dip down. It's going to dip down below zero again on Monday. They're talking about a bit of a chill, but that should be the last serious issue.
Never say that. You might jinx it, Don.
Well, by the looks of things, the long-term forecast looks pretty darn good.
It's bizarre how warm it is. We're actually going to have to take a short break, Don. It's that time, so we will do that. And so give us a call, 1-888-780-4273 or 250-862-2525 if you're here in the Okanagan Valley. And, we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. Alrighty, we are back, and we have Dan Bruce calling in here today. So he's just coming in on the phone. We have Don on the phone, so you guys are going to be dueling back and forth. But hello, Dan. Are you there?
I am here. Are you there?
Just a second. I'll check. Yep. Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Good.
Don, are you there?
I'm here. I'm looking at the Colereteria paniculata just out in the courtyard here at Trinity Church.
Nice.
They're a beautiful tree, Ken and Dan. They do have, all trees and shrubs in general have a balance sheet. They have negatives and positives. And there's not a lot of negative with Colereteria, the golden rain, other than they like to make babies with the seeds, the seed pods. Even though the seeds are very pretty, the seed pods, they will seed around a bit. Not difficult to control, though. And we have one in our backyard, and we just love it. What I do is I cut the seed pods off with my little pole pruner. I just clip them off So we don't have that issue at all.
Not as bad as not as bad as maples.
No, that's right.
Maples are just man, grow everywhere.
Yeah.
But so go ahead.
I was just going to say, Dan, you one of these years you're going to have to come down to the Seattle show again. I know we saw you down there one year when we were there, and it was a great show again this year.
Well, one of these years it probably will happen, but I was really busy outside yesterday because it was an open burning day.
Yay!
It's only the second one since October.
Yeah.
And the other good news is that today is also an open burning day.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Wow, there you go.
So we'll see what becomes. But we're in a bit of a sort of odd situation because we're now very, very aware of the dangers of wildfire in the Okanagan and trying to reduce the amount of fuel on various bits of property.
Mm.
But the open burning regulations won't let you do it.
Yep.
Well, there's always chipping, Dan.
Well, there's chipping, there's all sorts of technologies, but they have to be practical and realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And paid for.
I mean, how do you get the chipper to this brush pile?
Yeah, it's way down through the forest and whatnot.
Well, sometimes it's easy because the issue is right by a access route, but then in other times it's not. So anyway, I did get through 2 large brush piles yesterday, and there's another one to do today, and there's potential to build even more of them. So this is a good thing. We're able to do that.
Yes, and let's keep our fingers crossed that it lasts. And because I've got piles to burn myself, and we have to do that this upcoming week. But we have looked at the cost comparison between burning and chipping, and it's definitely at least, even if you're paying for the burning, it's at least twice the cost. Of the burning process. So, unfortunately, people don't have unlimited funds available, so you have to find the best way.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the folks that are coming into this building, it's just incredible, Ken and Dan. The gardeners are all enthusiastic about going into spring, and we've got Art Knapp's here doing their thing, and we've got some plants they're giving away, and we've got so many people here. I'm going to walk through it after we leave Dan here, and I'll walk through and explain some of the booths that are here. It's very loud and noisy in there because there's so much going on, so many people. But what a great event! I'm really quite proud and pleased for the Garden Club. 100 years this year they've been in business or been active, and some of those founding members were, like Elaine Cameron was in there, and Mrs. License was in there, various other folks in Kelowna that were shakers and movers in the gardening aspect. I'm quite pleased to be here today.
All righty. Well, let's see. Dan, what do you have up in your sleeve here today for us?
Well, as I said, I'm really pleased to get going on this garden cleanup thing, which is becoming quite a serious problem. I mean, the days are so few that you can actually burn. If somebody is working, their chances of being at home and available when there is a burning day are zero.
Yeah.
On the good side is we've had some decent moisture now, and there's been a lot of precipitation, snow, rain, slush, whatever, but it's gone into the ground. And while I was burning up stuff yesterday, my dogs were helping.
Oh.
Their idea of helping was digging holes, looking for mice underneath the brush piles. And Winkin dug a huge hole, went down almost 2 feet.
Oh my goodness!
And soil is wet right to the bottom.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, that's promising. I know a lot of times in the Okanagan, the deeper you dig, the drier it goes.
Yes, but in this particular spot, the moisture had gotten right down. So
that's good.
I'm thinking that the erimuras, which grow in that part of the garden, the foxtail lilies, they will do quite well this spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful plant. Lovely, yeah.
They haven't started to move yet, but they will.
Yeah, no, I guess that's they're going to be early, but it's still February. It's only the 24th today.
Yes. So they're not moving, and I think they're probably wise.
Yeah,
I see on the Environment Canada website, there's winter storm warnings on the highways.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't planning on going on the highway anyway, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's a difficult time of year to try to predict the weather, and what you see out your window is not necessarily what's going on up in the high country. That's for sure.
No.
Well, that's great, Dan. Anything else in the plant biz? How's your hippeastrum doing?
Well, the hippeastrum, the La Paz, the one with the 12 stems, is fading now.
Okay.
And the regular white and red ones are coming on.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing in the downstairs in the plant room is the hibiscus, which all three of them are in flower at the moment.
Oh, that's good. So it's obviously they're enjoying that location.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You've got some grow lights going there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Dan. Oh, I think we might. Hopefully, we didn't lose Dan. Dan, are you there? Hello, Dan. Oh, he's dropped off. All right. How about Don? Do we have Don there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Don Burnett. There he is. Yep.
I'm here. We're so busy down here, Ken. And I'm going to just let you do your thing there for a bit.
Yep.
I've got a couple of something to deal with here, and then I will get back on the air again.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Have fun. Bye-bye. Oh, the hustle and bustle of it all. It's so much fun. It's that time of year. I always look forward to this time of year, because of all the events that are coming up, and the CD Sundays and CD Saturdays are happening all over the country, really. So, check out your community and see if they're happening. One thing that I have, I'm always constantly in research mode, it seems like, but I've definitely found out some more information. I kept hearing this thing where they said, even all the foods, that are out there, all the vegetables and things, are losing their nutritional value. The nutrition that's in these vegetables and things is just dropping and dropping and dropping. And it seems like every year they just keep dropping more and more. And, and I'm trying to think, well, I wonder what's causing that, And then, of course, I ended up watching a documentary on the way that they produce seeds. And then the whole gist of it was to calculate the difference between sort of heritage varieties or homegrown vegetables compared to commercially grown vegetables that come from these huge seed producers and whatnot. And lo and behold, they have about a 60 to 70% reduction in nutrition in all the hybrid varieties that come out of these huge seed companies. And the products that we buy, I guess, off the racks, the plants that we seed in the gardens are still at their full nutritional value. So that was a really good sort of an identification. So another reason to grow some vegetables at home, whatever they are. And, the value is, even people do say, it's getting more and more expensive to grow your own vegetables at home. But have you ever been to the grocery store? Oh, my God. It's just unbelievable, the cost of these things. And then, again, the nutritional value is only about 30% of the homegrown stuff. So, that's another good reason to get out there, grow a tomato plant or grow some lettuce or grow anything you can grow. Grab a pot, take a milk bottle, cut the top off of it, poke some holes in the bottom, throw some soil in there, even recycled soil. Get something growing. All right, that's just an additional tip for today. But we're going to take another short break. We do invite your calls. So again, if you're calling long distance, like from Victoria or anywhere on the internet, it's 1-888-780-4273. And if you're calling locally here in the Okanagan, it's 250-862-2525 to get through. And we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. Alrighty, we are back, and we do invite your calls. It's getting close to gardening season, We've got to get some callers in here and asking some gardening questions. And, right now, there are actually quite a few things that we should be thinking about getting going. If we're lucky enough to have a garden space that's just reasonable size outside, in the earth, we're pretty lucky because not everybody has that. And so one of the things that I start thinking about at this time of year are these sort of warm crops that take a long, long time to come through to fruition, to actually produce nicely. And you want to try to, at least I always try to get them going a little bit early if I can, and then get them out into the garden relatively, well, again, the thing is, when I'm talking about warm crops, that means they can't really go down below about, I'm going to say 6 degrees Celsius is about as cold as they like, and some of those plants will, even this just below 10 degrees Celsius, like with tomato plants, like they don't like that. They're not happy with it, and that can stunt them and slow down their growth. So anything you can do to help keep them warm a little bit is always going to be a benefit. So what I prefer to do is to work either like indoors with grow lights at this time of year to get them going, and then also get them started early, but keep them nice and toasty warm, and not put them out. Plan on keeping them in. And I have my grow light right beside a bright window, so I'm supplementing my grow light with the natural light that comes in. And then once I'll just keep them going and going. I'll keep potting them up and fertilizing them and keeping them all happy. And then by the time I hit probably the 24th May long weekend, that's the target, right? For us here in the Okanagan anyway, you really look at the night temperatures. It doesn't really matter so much what it's doing during the day, even though it better be 15 degrees at least by that time of the year. But it's that nighttime temperature. You don't want it to be too cold. You don't want your plants to get a chill because it can just stop them in their tracks. Peppers, are one of those things that doesn't like the cold at all. Eggplants, some of the beans, broad beans are more particular than other beans, but the particularly melons and cucumbers and even celery. Celery, you got to get it started really early. Like I'm starting to seed mine this weekend, and then I'll keep it going all the way through and get it planted out again around the 24th May long weekend. But that's the way it goes with seeding. You got to know your stuff and know which ones to do first, second, and third. And how about you, Don? Are you getting some seeding going? I guess.
Yeah, I do. I've actually got some Strelitzia sprouting right now.
What? Strelitzia?
A friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, brought them back from Hawaii, and have had difficulty germinating them previously in the home. So he gave them to me to try, and out of 4 seeds, I got 2 coming up, and nice. I think another one's going to push. Those things that people bring back from Hawaii, the key logs and the Strelitzia seeds and the plumerias and things like that. They're not too difficult to grow, but they can be problematic and rotting. That's the problem a lot of folks have, is they just over love their plants, and killing them with kindness is a common problem.
Yeah, exactly. And remembering when it comes to seed, especially tropical seed, is the faster you plant it, the better it grows. And so holding it, in your drawer, for a year before you put it in the ground is not really conducive to tropical plant growing. But you get it, and like I always say, if I'm eating, say, a date or something, and I want to try to grow that date seed, then as I'm eating it, I I pulled a pit out of my mouth and stuff it in the soil and water it right away. And within about a week, it's starting to shoot up. Like, it's just amazing. The faster you plant them, the quicker and easier they germinate. So you've got the tools to sort of surpass that, because you've got heat and you've got moisture and nutrients and a greenhouse.
Yeah, very fortunate to have a little greenhouse. Yeah, and sometimes, of course, when you're buying seeds and things in Hawaii or anywhere else in the world where you're allowed to bring a few things home, you want to make sure that it's fresh. Like you just said, the Strelitzia seeds that have been sitting in the drawer for a year or whatever are not going to be as viable as fresh ones. And so they could be sitting in that store where you bought them. They could have been sitting there for quite a while before you buy them. So try and make sure you're trying to get the right information. You're getting fresh stuff when you're buying them. And, that brings the topic around, and I'm sure you'll be talking a little bit about that today too, and that is seed storage. When you have seed and you have overabundance of seed and you haven't planted and you want to keep it for next year, there's several ways to kind of keep them. Some seeds keep better than others. Not all seed is viable after a year or two. Some will last for many years, but it all depends on how you're storing them. I certainly don't want to get the seed wet, because they'll try and germinate, and then they will not be viable after that. But keeping them not absolutely dry either is a good thing too.
It's a real challenge.
Mario Lancier just arrived. He's going to be the first speaker today, so he's walking in. Looking good, walking still. As we get older, Ken, it's fascinating to watch everybody that I've known over the years climb the ladder of life. Anyway, here we are down at the Trinity Church, and we invite everybody to come down and see. There's probably, I'm going to suggest there's 15, maybe more booths set up here. Lots of plant booths, and there's some demonstrations, some potting demonstrations going to be going on here too. They've got that set up. So
the master gardeners are there as well.
Master gardeners are there. The Xeriscape people are here. It's very exciting, actually.
Yeah, I might be hanging out with the master gardeners there for a bit, answering some questions. Probably maybe a little bit before the lunchtime, and then a little bit after as well. So after my talk. So it's always fun.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, master gardeners are so keen on stuff, and it's just fabulous. They're so knowledgeable, and it's fun. It's fun to talk with them. Yeah, well, there you go. So, we were talking a little bit about seeding and the differences between the different types of seeds and seed storage. And the key, really, I would say, if you have seeds, you should just keep them in the refrigerator, because that nice 4 degrees Celsius is just right to keep them fresh, just like other things that you would have in the fridge. It keeps it fresh for longer. The other nice thing that I find is, especially if you want something to germinate. Now, not so much tropical seeds, right? But I'm thinking, annuals and vegetables and that sort of thing, and especially perennial seeds, like what we find hardy perennials or trees, that sort of thing. You keep them in the refrigerator through the winter months or in the off gardening season, and then when you're ready to plant them, when they come out of that cold situation, and you pop them into nice warm potting soil on a little heated pad they just can't resist. They have to grow. And that's something I'm sure you've seen before, Don. I don't know if you're still there, but the thing that happens is that rapid change from being cool to being warm is just this trigger that gets plants up and going. And so it's coming right out of the refrigerator and straight onto a heated bench. Fabulous.
Boy, I'll tell you. It's so bustling down here, Ken. It's amazing. I really invite folks to come down to the show. They probably, they can't get into the lecture hall, but the plant displays and the booths here at the Trinity Church are incredible. It's like a mini Seattle show. It's really quite great.
Yeah, corner of Spall and Springfield.
Yeah, Trinity Church on Springfield. A big church, and lots of stuff going on down here. We really invite people to come down and get your green thumbs greener.
Yeah, and as I was saying, bring your notepads, because it's going to be a lot to absorb, a lot to learn, and it's fascinating. It's one of these great opportunities, and I just I'm looking forward to CD Sundays and CD Saturdays that are coming up in the local communities. In Kelowna here, CD Sunday. And actually tomorrow on the 25th is Victoria's CD Sunday. And so, yeah, each community has a different day. They often don't like them to overlap, but same kind of concept. We get all these great people who have seeds that, especially some of these heritage varieties and whatnot, and they'll bring their wares down, and you can do seed exchanges and trading and purchasing seeds and plants, and it's all good stuff. All right, we're coming up to the 9 o'clock break here, so we do invite your calls. 862-2525. That's 250-862-2525 to get through to us here in Kelowna. And if you're calling from Victoria, 1-888-780-4273. And we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. Alrighty, we are back with you, and thanks for tuning into The Garden Show each week. We really do enjoy talking about gardening and answering your questions, or doing the best we can. All right, we have Jim calling in from Victoria. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, no problem.
I am just a real novice gardener, but we planted a hedge. And I believe it's a type of laurel hedge. A few years ago now, just as a sort of use it as a privacy screen for our little suite. Has a sort of outdoor deck there, and it's done really, really well. It flowers, gentlemen, in the spring typically with these little pink flowers. Beautiful, but it's like a dark green laurel type of leaf, shiny, but not the real big laurels that you see, and not a Portuguese laurel, because we have one of those. It's a smaller variety, and it's supposed to be. When we bought it, we have a deer problem in Victoria. You guys are probably aware of that.
Yep.
When we bought it, we asked for something that was somewhat deer-proof. Turned out it wasn't, but anyway, it was beautiful. But what ended up happening this year is, so when we started having that warm spell, and I know the province pretty much had it, I think, maybe a little bit compounded in Victoria. Things started to bud, and the hedge actually started to flower a little bit. Oh. And then we got that cold snap, right. and then now we are where we're at. But shortly after that cold snap, the hedge started to die. Ooh. And it took a real hit. Now it's not completely dead, but I would say 30% of it, it looks like it may die right off, and there's leaves all over, so I've been sort of cleaning it up, but kind of looking for advice on maybe what the next step to do for this poor thing moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and this is something that has happened in all different areas, and here in the Okanagan, it's really hit our fruit crops. So the fruit crops, right. The same sort of thing. So what we had is an exceptionally warm period of time. There, sort of, I guess it was sort of through the Christmas break and whatnot. Very, very warm, and so the plants were actually just taking on water and. I think they were really thinking about getting going. And like you say, even some buds would pop and start to grow and that sort of thing. But what the issue is that once a plant starts to let go of its dormancy and it's saying, okay, I think, the winter's probably over, I'm going to start to grow, then all of a sudden it lets go a lot of its defenses against the cold. And so with plant cells, when it knows it's winter, it actually migrates the water out of the cells into in between the cells and keeps the cells concentrated with sugar, and that's because it's more frost resistant, right? And so what happens is if they start to bring water back in this case, it's getting warm and it's called comfy out there. So then once the water gets in the cells, if the temperature drops rapidly, and it really has to go below about -5 to do that, and for a decent period of time, meaning 12 hours or more, then those cells just burst. So what happens there is you will get this visual dieback that you'll see. So leaves that look damaged and leaves that will just turn brown and drop off and whatnot. But the key for you is to check the stems And so what I do, because the stems have a much tougher, they have more hardiness than the leaves do for the cold resistance, right? So you can go out and just scratch those stems with your thumbnail a bit. Okay. And have a look and see if it's still moist underneath there and some green underneath there. You know, if you scratch it and it's kind of black or brown, you know, that stem is dead. But if you scratch it and it's green, it means like that's probably fine. And so leaves can be discarded and regrown. So you know, if all goes well, what happens to yours is that this spring, you know, some of the leaves just continue to die off and they might turn brown and drop. You can pick some off if you like to keep it looking tidy. But then as new leaves come, you'll see this push that happens. So the roots underground should be perfectly fine. The stems, as you get closer to the ground, have more and more frost resistance as they get closer to the earth. So what happens there again is that even if, say, some of these branches are dead, you keep scratching it down until you see green, and then you can snip those out. And, you know, or you just wait until you get closer to, say, into March. And then you can, by that time, you're starting to see new growth coming on, and you're seeing what's alive and what's dead. And some plants may succumb to it, like the entire plant may die, and then you would have to go out and get that same plant again. Now, it sounds like by your description, the one you may have might be the Prunus lorosoracis autoleucon is one of these dwarf forms that stays smaller, still wide and whatnot. It's a beautiful plant. But whatever the variety, ideally you would have a tag somewhere or something, some sort of a record. And I always say that because I never really keep track. And then it's like, oh, one of them died and I have to go replace it. And,
I'm not that organized.
Yeah. So, but one thing you could do is, you know, if you bring some samples down with you, you might be able to get a similar variety and then pop it in there. If say one or two die, I'm suspect that you're going to get dieback, some defoliation, and then it's going to grow back. And by the time you're into May, it's going to be looking pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Now, so all right, so is the reverse the same in terms of the sugars and the way the plant reacts to drought?
Yeah, well. Sort of, but sort of the opposite, where what it'll do is it'll hold the sugars will remain constant, because remember, sugar is the food of the plant, so the cells are living on the sugar, but the water is what's keeping it alive when temperatures are warm. And so they really need to have that water in there to be active. And so what they do when it gets really hot out is they have these little openings on the bottom sides of the leaves, and they're called stomata. And whenever it's just normal temperatures, those stomata are open most of the time. They can open and close them, and it's a ventilation system. So the air can come in, and they can use oxygen and all that stuff inside the leaf. So it's a little vents. And then when it gets really super hot and super dry, they close those vents to keep the water in, because the water will just evaporate out of those holes, right? So it's just a part of. So that's what they do with the water. The sugar aspect stays pretty constant all the time, because that's literally their fuel. They need to keep a constant supply.
Okay, yeah, because it took a little bit of a hit this summer because we go away for almost a month up island,
right?
And I wasn't able to have anyone serve water on it. There was a period when we were away, it was really hot. So when I came home, you could tell it was under a bit of stress. Now my neighbor has a sprinkler system like right beside the hedge, and I was just kind of hoping that it would draw in water from that. But I think it just, once I got home and started watering it bounced back. But it did. Yeah. It definitely put it under stress. Okay, well, that's great. Well, I appreciate your help. Okay, well, then, I think the best thing is, and what about, so I shouldn't fertilize or anything, just let it naturally kind of sort of come back and then keep an eye on it and cut anything that's dead off of it, clean it up and just save it.
Basically, yeah. And then remember the compost or like black mulches that are composted? Our plants just love that, right? So if you start to see little shoots, then throw some mulch down. That's got nutrients in it.
Oh, yeah, okay. The city offers that stuff up. Like, we're just right in close to Beacon Hill, so we can go and get I can go get bags of that stuff. And plus, I'm on the composting program with the city, so I get these bags of beautiful compost. Okay, well, that's good. So
awesome.
once the shoots push out, I'll throw some compost under it.
Yeah, and think about that too. Like compared to like say buying a bag of fertilizer and sprinkling that out, that's the straight chemical, and the plants like that. It works good too. But when it comes to compost is like all those nutrients wrapped in like. It's almost like medicine to the plant. Like it's amazing. Okay. The organic acids that are in there, there's something about it that just makes plants grow. So it's something that would be a benefit, say, compost versus fertilizer, always compost.
Okay, excellent. Okay, another good tip.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I really enjoy you guys' show. You guys are awesome.
Right on. Thanks for calling in, Jim. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, that's the way it goes, And then this other thing about, as Jim was talking about his hedge there, and if it's a newly planted hedge, you got to be pretty much on it. And then when the summer comes and it starts to dry out and it's getting hot, that's when it needs the water. If it had established, say, over 4 years or 3 or 4 years, and it was well rooted, then its roots would be out far and spreading, and it probably would have got water from the neighbor's yard. And if you go away, it's not so bad. So well-established plants are far more drought-tolerant than newly planted plants. So I think a lot of us realize that, but it's something that we have to really pay attention to, especially when it gets hot. Alrighty, so we're going to take another short break. Again, we do invite your call, so give us a call. We'll talk anything about gardening. The vegetable season's right around the corner. I think it's already started up in Victoria area. So give us a call, and we'll do our best to get you those answers. So we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. Alrighty, we're back, and we're going to go straight back to the phone lines. We have Diane on the line. Good morning, Diane.
Oh, good morning, Ken. I have a question about the grow lights. I was wondering how many hours a day you should keep them on your new plants when you're starting seeds inside. Yeah,
well, that's a great question, and it's there's two sort of thoughts behind it. Just number one is that if power consumption is a concern, which generally it's not much of a concern with most grow lights, right? But if I was on a budget, say, and I was like, I had a bunch of grow lights that were costing me a lot of money, then the minimum length of time is about 10 or 11 hours a day.
Oh, okay.
That's sort of the minimum. And then if you wanted to go, 12 or 14 in that range, that would be adequate. You don't really have to go much beyond that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I didn't realize that it should be that long. So
yeah. So to give you an idea, just follow the length of day, but right now, I think we're. When do we hit the equinox? That is in March, or anyway. It's coming up.
March. Yeah, I think March.
Yeah, and then the days are equal to the nights, and that would be 12 hours. And the only thing that happens with certain plants respond to days that are longer than 12 hours or shorter than 12 hours. But most of the plants that we would grow, seedlings and annuals, that sort of thing, they all want to be maybe just a smidgen more than 12 hours, and that kind of gives them a good base.
Okay, well, that's really good to know. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
You too. Thanks for calling, Dan.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you wanted to run your grow lights for hours and hours and hours, run it 24 hours a day, I'm sure you could do that. It's just a matter of, is it going to make that much of a difference? There are some people that do want to do that for certain types of crops, but honestly, I don't think that the difference is that much. You can fool plants by running like a 6-hour segment, then go off for 4 hours, and then on for 6, and off for 4, and on for 6. And then they just think that it's summertime all the time. They just will grow, because they think that the days are really long. They're just not off long enough, because it's the on time of more than 12 hours or off time of more than 12 hours is really what triggers them. And it's always associated with the night. When you get things like poinsettias, you'll hear people say, oh, poinsettias, you need to have the the days longer than the nights, or the nights longer than the days. It's always nights longer than the days, and you can't have any interruption during that night period to get them to turn color. So they have to be more than 12 hours of darkness every day. All right, we have a caller on the line. Is Maxine there? Hello, Maxine.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. How are you doing, Maxine?
Okay, I'm phoning. I know it's early.
Yeah.
But I'm phoning to wish you a happy birthday coming up.
Oh,
because
gee.
I know your 29th birthday, like you're 29, so this year you get to celebrate it. And it's on Friday. I have it in the column.
Yeah.
But then Saturday would be too late. So there's my long-winded story about a happy birthday.
Well, that's fabulous. Thank you so much. That's so appreciated. I really do.
I always think of my friends that have that birthday on the 29th.
Yeah, it's weird. Only every 4 years. So what's been great is I could always have my birthday whenever I wanted. It didn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hear Don's not around today.
Yeah, he's down at the Garden Club show, the garden show that's happening down at the Trinity Church.
Yes,
and it's going to be a big deal.
I've been invited to go. I'm going to stop in and see them. I'm just on my way to the hotel to work, but I am going to go. I wrote about it in the column, and it sounds so really neat. So I'm going to stop in after breakfast.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, thanks so much for calling in. That's very, very kind of you. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Maxine.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. There you go, Maxine DeHart. And if you don't have her newsletter, you should look it up. It's awesome, and that is straight from DeHart, the newsletter. It's fabulous. All right, there you go. And the birthdays come and they go, and sometimes they don't come that often. But hey, it's all good as long as you get them sooner or later. It's all that matters. Alrighty, so it's been an interesting show so far, and we've had lots of people calling in with different questions. Some of the things, again, I was just talking briefly about the temperature thing and about warm-loving crops. And there's sort of two groups of these warm-loving crops, and they don't like to be cold at all. They just want to be warm, warm, warm all the time. And so, like, basil is one of those. You know, like some people are starting basil already, but you really, their minimum temperature more like 12 degrees Celsius maybe. So again, that would be end of May sort of timing, because it's the nighttime that we're worried about. It's not the daytime. Daytime's typically above that 12 degrees. So those plants like that just love the heat, there's not really much sense in getting them going really early unless you have grow lights and you can get them going indoors. Because if you can grow an absolutely normal plant indoors with lots of leaves, and you can harvest them 2 or 3 times between now and the end of May. And then at the end of May, pop them out into the garden. And there you go. So that's great success. So that's one thing that basil is actually fairly easy to grow indoors. It just loves those nice warm temperatures. All right, other plants that are similar to that, eggplants, I was talking about that off the top of the show, that now's the time to get them started because they are quite a long crop, generally about 100 days or so to harvest. And so, again, having some grow lights of some sort, whatever they are, if you have sort of, I'm just going to say lower cost grow lights, they typically need to be closer to the plants, so they have to be right up close. If you have higher quality grow lights, they're usually much brighter and they use a lot more power and whatnot, but you can generally be 3 feet away or so. So that distance is really important. In the old days, we used to use fluorescent tubes. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we would use fluorescent tubes to grow plants. And I remember we used to have the tubes literally touching the tops of the plants. They had to be within about a half an inch of the plants. The light is just not of good enough quality for the plant material. But nowadays, with LED lights that we have, they are pretty good for power consumption. They don't use much power, and they don't give off much heat, but they really, really are cost-effective to run, and they have a wide scope or a wide spectrum of light, as long as you're using a high K light bulb. So I just checked the numbers. Each bulb will usually say it's 2700 K or 3000 K or something like that. I really like to be at least 4000 or 5000 K for plants using as grow lights. And when you buy lights, it says right on it, it says this is a grow light. That's your first step. Yeah, so they're usually very high K lights. And plants really respond well to them, and they do really well. The other thing we talked about was the heating pads and having a nice warm pad to set the plants on or to grow seedlings on. It's definitely gets things up and going really quickly. So plants that we don't want to get started too early are plants like your squash, your tomatoes, basil. I just talked about that. Cucumbers, melons, and beans, that sort of thing. That you don't really need to get those going too early. And so usually seeding those anytime around the end of April is typically okay. Tomato plants is sort of traditional around the 10th of April or so. It's sort of typical for tomatoes to seed them and then be able to put them out by the end of May. Now, again, if you have grow lights and you want to push it a bit and get them going bigger, then have at it. If you have a greenhouse, you're even luckier than that. But always about that minimum nighttime temperature. Other crops that are really warm-loving plants, but you have to get them started early, are plants like peppers, especially the hot peppers, eggplants. I talked about peanuts last week. The peanut plants, you just have to get them going early because they're such a long crop, and they don't like the cold whatsoever. But you can get them started indoors, keep them warm until they're ready to go out. Broad beans take a little bit longer to grow, so sometimes we get those started indoors. And watermelons, like some people really love to grow watermelons, but they don't always come through to fruition because we don't get enough warm days or hot days. So get them started early indoors and be ready to pop them out as soon as the temperatures change. And also celery, which is something I really love. Since I've been growing my own celery, Wendy and I have been really enjoying it. Just crunchy, crispy, tasty, not bitter at all, and it's just so nice to pick it fresh. And there's many different varieties that grow well. Typically, they're in that sort of 80 days or maybe up to 100 days, depending on the variety. But I just keep them growing. I chop them off. Sometimes they grow back a bit. But celery is so nice to grow in the garden, and I will be starting mine very soon, within maybe this weekend or at the latest by next weekend for sure. And again, I'll get those germinating onto the benches, onto Wendy's benches where she has some heated pads and a grow light. Get those things up and going so we can get them out into the garden as soon as we can. All right, so yeah, lots of things going on. Now, cold crops, that's another whole different ball of wax, and those are plants that need to be cold when they grow. And what's my number one cold-loving plant? Cilantro. Everybody loves cilantro. Well, not everybody loves cilantro. It's kind of love-hate relationship. I used to hate it, for years and years, and then I went to Mexico, and we had so many things with cilantro in it. By the time I got back, I was craving cilantro. But I have grown it before years ago in greenhouses when we were growing them for retail sales and also for wholesale sales. So I learned quite a bit about the growing of them and bringing them on. They really need to be kept cool or cold. They don't mind a little bit of frost, but they really like to grow right around a refrigeration temperature. Like if you could have a refrigerator with grow lights in it, that might work. Doesn't make sense. But a cold frame outside, just a box with a little bit of plastic over it or an old window or something on top of it, build a cold frame, and that's where you can get that cilantro growing. If you're in the Victoria area, you could do it right now. If you're here in the Okanagan, you could do it right now, but you just have to watch if we do get some temperatures that drop down below about -5 for that plant. I would be a little bit cautious, even in a cold frame. But cold frames are awesome. They can get these plants up and going, plants that love to grow cool, and you want to get them off to an early start and get an early harvest. There's just tons of those plants, spinach and Swiss chard and just all kinds of things. You can grow them in little pots or trays and then plant them outside anytime the soil is workable, really. For the Okanagan, I generally aim for about somewhere after the 15th of March. This year, I think you could get away with it like today. 6 degrees out last night. That's unbelievable. All right, so we're going to take another short break here, and we do invite your calls. So 888-780-4273. Long distance, and also locally 250-862-2525 to get through. And we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. All Alrighty, we're back. Thank you so much for everybody calling in today. It makes the show go, that's for sure. Just want to chat a little bit about some of the things that are happening. Spring cleanups are coming around the corner, so make sure that when you are, thinking about that, you can get started, I guess, just about any time. But it is one of these things that what my concern sometimes is with spring cleanups is people stepping on plants and whatnot in the gardens. So we've often mentioned to people to put stepping stones in throughout the season. And it's really for your fall and spring cleanup so that you know where your plants are. And you know that if you're on the stepping stones, you're on a safe place, especially when it comes to perennial gardens where things are just herbaceous. They're shooting up from underground. So put in some stepping stones, and that'll allow you to get in there. And our company, KHS Landscape Professionals, is right now booking. I think we're booking already for around the end of March or so. We might have a few openings for spring cleanups and also some pruning that has to be done here fairly soon, and some landscaping. I know we are taking quite a few bookings right now. It's awesome, but this is the time of year people start thinking about that. And if you want to get through to us at KHS, you can just look it up online, KHS Landscape Professionals. We're everywhere on the web and pretty much everywhere else. And you can give us a call anytime. I do have a phone number if you're interested in that. It's 250-766-3733. I always think of that. It's the same number as another popular show that I know, 250-766-3733. Very similar. All right, there you go. And the Grower Coach on YouTube is going very, very well. And as Don was mentioning, that he's doing his pruning of his grapes and kiwis. And each year I've been sort of tracking that and doing little videos on YouTube about that. And so I'll be doing another one here fairly soon. And likely what I will do by summertime, because once the thing's leafed out and they're producing more fruit again, or even, coming through to fruition like at the end of August when they're producing the grapes and kiwis, is to piece all these videos together into one video so you're able to see over like 2 years of growing what that looks like. And so you just go to Grower Coach on YouTube, and you can check out, there's all kinds of videos there about seeding and growing onions and you name it, all kinds of different things. And you can check that out if you like. And always remember to subscribe. It's a big help to us to get the word out there. When you subscribe, it just makes it a little bit more visible online. And if you like it, that also helps. So click the little like button and subscribe and all that stuff. You hear about it a lot, but it is very important to get the channels up and going and get them out there to the people who need them. All right, more tips that we have today. I was talking a little bit about cold plants. So I mentioned this last week actually about cold crops and cole crops, C-O-L-E. And cole crops are those plants that really are part of the cabbage family, really. So C-O-L-E is they're called cole crops. And typically on farms, that sort of thing, they're the skinny-stemmed brassica group, and they could be things like canola and different things that are grown on farms, even mustard weed, that sort of thing, mustard. But all those plants, all of the cabbage family, the brassicas, whatever they are, they all don't mind to freeze a bit at night. So, wow, that's kind of nice. So there's something you can get going early. Anything that's related to cabbages. So that can be radishes or kohlrabis or there's a myriad of kale, all different types of those plants. I think even radicchio and kaolette, there's quite a few different plants that are in that group. And so really nice to get those started early. We could seed them right now and get them outside ASAP. And if there's going to be a cold snap, all you need to do is put a little snow cap over top of it if it's going to get cold. The snow doesn't really hurt them. It's all about that minimum temperature we've been talking about. Collard greens, that's another one that's just tough as nails, easy to grow, and part of the brassica group, along with broccoli and cauliflower and all that. And so other plants as well, like I love to get the peas out quite early, and they could go out anytime now, really. They don't mind to be cold for a bit before they kick in. And for sure, they're a plant that, they like to get going early. What I do with peas, though, and I must say, is that it's annoying the way the little birds, their house sparrows particularly, they eat the leaves of plants. And I think their favorite plant to eat are pea seedlings. And so when you have the little seedlings coming up, they often get chewed off. People will often blame all kinds of insects and things for doing that, but it's usually the birds that do that. So putting some chicken wire over top of those is usually a wise idea. And what I do is I start the peas indoors. I get them up about 2 or 3 inches high, like in a 6-pack. And then I can plant them straight outside, right into their location, and again, put some chicken wire over them to protect them from all these little birds. So just a good idea there. Other things you can get out right now are radishes. Of course, they like to grow cold, and there's many different varieties. And I always suggest that if you don't have success with a radish of some sort, try a different sort. So, that's the thing with a lot of these plants, and vegetables are like that, is that if you don't have success with that particular plant or that variety, try a different variety. Carrots are like that. There's so many varieties. And sometimes you'll knock it out of the park one year and you'll go, gee, that's just great. Because those plants are adapting to your specific soil type. And some plants, they really, really are picky, and they don't like certain conditions. And sometimes you get your carrots growing all stubby or kind of growing sort of mangled looking, and that sometimes happens just because they just don't like the soil conditions. So if we can move on from that, try a different variety. That's why I always suggest whatever you plant every year in your vegetable garden, write it down and track what you planted last year. And at the end of the year, sort of give them a rating. Rate them between, 1 and 10. Was this a good plant? Was it mediocre? Was it fabulous? Was it really poor? And, and what I've said in the past is whenever you're planting anything, especially if you're new to gardening or new to a new garden space, is like if I was going to plant a bunch of carrots, let's say I have an area that's 4 feet by 8 feet long and I want it solid with carrots pretty much. Well, I would plant one section with one variety and another section with another variety and another section with yet another variety. So I'm growing 3 different types of carrots in that same area. And lo and behold, one of those varieties will do better than the rest. And then the next year you'll know that's the one you're going to plant moving forward. And, you've zoomed ahead in the program. So everything to do with gardening is often a bit of an experiment, and you keep trying different things. Same with lettuce. I know people have all kinds of struggles growing lettuce sometimes. Again, it's got to be out early. Lettuce loves to grow cold. So if you get it out there nice and early and you grow, again, not one variety, but 2 or 3 varieties, and then one of those varieties will take off and grow, and you'll know that's the one that adapts best to your conditions. Spinach can be similar, but spinach is pretty easy. It tends to grow just about anywhere. But same idea, though. If you're having trouble with certain varieties, then definitely try a different type. But you won't be able to pick the different type if you don't write the name down. So really important. Lots of plants are like that. So, even with onions, there's different varieties. But the one I've noticed the most was with my peppers, green peppers. I always grew this one called California Wonder, and it was always the one I grew because it was always the one that was available. And you know what? It doesn't grow in my garden. I tried and tried and tried and tried. I just can't seem to get anything on that particular type of pepper. So each year I've been trying different varieties, and you know what? A lot of the different varieties grow way better for me in my garden. So I'm just glad I've been trying different varieties, and I no longer buy that one because it just, for me, doesn't really work. Might work really good for you. So just as a suggestion, I would say try some different varieties and see what the difference is. Other things, and today, as I mentioned, I will be speaking at the 100th anniversary of the garden club here today, and one of the things I'll be talking about is that is sort of the seeding of new varieties compared to old varieties, and Oh, it's just so much. In the vegetable category, it just goes on and on. So I'm trying to take in a little bit about technology, because this whole thing is about moving into the future with gardening, in particular vegetable growing. And I have a lot of really cool ideas. You know, I've been researching this for a long time. I'm always looking at the cutting edge new technology, and it's just been unbelievable in the last, well, just over this winter. It just seems like everything has suddenly changed. Every day there's something new about the garden and about how they're growing vegetables and plants, you know, from all different ways. And it's fabulous. So they're solving a lot of the issues, diseases and things that were incurable in the past are now fairly curable. So there you go. Technology just continues moving forward. All right, we're going to take another short break here. So we do invite your calls. And so give us a call before the end of the show here. We've got about 10 minutes left for question and answer. So we'll be back right after these messages with more of The Garden Show. Welcome back. And yeah, we're talking about early seeding and things you can get going on. Again, I mentioned a whole bunch of these cold crops, not coal crops, but cold crops, plants that love to grow cold and don't mind to freeze at night. And they can include even plants like potatoes. Like you can get potatoes in very, very early into the ground. Excuse me. And yeah, the onions. You know, onions are a huge one. With onions, I've done, I think last year was one of the big years for onions. We grew so many from seed starting in right in January, getting them going really early in greenhouses and just at home under the grow lights and getting them up and going. I have some going right now. Typically they're seeded somewhere in February. I mean, it's not too late. You can still do them now. Leeks, that's another one. It's usually good to get those going right about now. And yeah, those things actually like to grow cold. So if I can, I get them out into a cold frame. So having some sort of a cold frame, again, I talked briefly about that. And it's as simple as a box with plastic on the lid, you know, for a lid, just so light can come in the top. But things that will protect the plants from extreme temperature changes, and yet still warm up in the daytime. When the sun shines, it's nice and toasty warm in there. And usually would put that in a protected spot, sort of on the south side of the house or something, right against the house. It's a good location. And plants like these onions, well, they just take right off. So you can get them started in pots. We seed them into trays, almost like 6 packs, maybe about 4 or 5 seeds per hole. And then once they get to be about maybe 3 or 4 inches tall, we take a pair of scissors and we cut them down to about 1 inch tall. And then they branch out and they start to get really nice and sort of bushy as far as onions go. And they develop their little bulb at the base. And then those can be taken out and separated out of each 6-pack and put straight into the garden if you like. And or into a cold frame, into a little bit larger pots, and get them started there, get them growing and sizing up, and then they could be transferred out into the garden a little bit later. But onions are not afraid of the cold, that's for sure, and they really come through to fruition generally by around the end of July. So that's generally when you'll see a lot of the onions coming ready. And so with seeding them, that's one of the options. The other way that I do onions is I actually seed them around the beginning of August. And so at the beginning of August, that's when I'll plant them straight out into the garden, and I'll get them started, and they will come up just beautifully and grow right through the month of August into September and go right through the winter, and in spring, away they go. They're popping up as early as they can based on the weather, and they're just fabulous, a nice size by the summertime. All right, we're just going to go back to the phone lines. We have Ronnie on the line. Good morning, Ronnie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
We talked last weekend about potatoes, and you gave me some really good advice. I shared that with my sisters, and there's some more questions.
Oh, nice.
The potatoes that we buy are the ones in the bag, like seed potatoes. So how many eyes should there be on each piece when you plant?
Well,
and how many pieces in a 10-gallon grow bag?
Yeah, well, that is a very good question. I tend to leave the potatoes whole.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is that whenever I cut the potato in half, the potato gives off a bit of a fragrance. Like it smells really nice. Smells like potatoes.
Oh.
But what it does is there are insects that sometimes also love potatoes. Oh. And when you cut them, you kind of expose that inside of the potato, and then the smell starts coming out. And then things like wireworms and other types of grubs will sometimes love to get in there and consume those guys. So, that's just the way I've done them, is I put them in whole. But every once in a while, I'll find potatoes that are really big, like for seed potatoes. Usually they're just small, right? And I think that's perfect. Just throw them in. And I would put generally maybe about two of those, 1 or 2 per grow bag. Like you don't need very many.
Okay, 1 or 2 whole ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but if I did get one that was really big, I could leave that whole and plant that too. You just get more potatoes in one spot. But you can cut them in half. And if I cut them in half, I'll generally leave them open to the air for a period of time, maybe a few days. Them? Yeah, just so that the skin is not wet, and it's dried up on that cut. And then once that's dried up, then you'd plant that into the ground. And also with those, sometimes we will put, sometimes we use a little bit of garden sulfur, depending where you're located. Like you're calling from Victoria, correct? Yeah. So if you're in the Victoria area, I tend to use garden sulfur on those potatoes because of the excessive moisture. Like you'll get more moisture than, say, what we would here.
Okay.
And so,
on whole ones or cut ones?
Probably both.
Oh, okay, so just throw some garden sulfur with the soil?
Just a small sprinkle. Yeah, just a very small sprinkle. I would read the directions on it, and it's an organic product, but it helps to reduce many of the different diseases. It may not be as much of a factor in the bag, but if you're growing them in the ground or in pots, then anywhere it might sit soggy, get too wet, then that's where it would benefit from.
And that was my other question: is how do I know whether I'm watering these guys enough?
Well, you need to get right into where the potato is, and so either if it's in a grow bag, like I sometimes will cut a little slit in the side of the bag, and then I can
have little trap doors.
Yeah, depending on the type. Yeah. I have a couple different styles, but then as long as I can stick my finger right in there and just feel it, and if it feels moist, don't water it, because the potatoes don't like to be soggy.
Well, I was worried about getting them too soggy, and last year all I got were a pile of really, really tiny potatoes.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a soil thing too. So I do recommend using a quality potting soil in those bags rather than, say, dirt from the garden or compost.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, and that usually will help for sure.
Okay.
But watch the moisture thing. It is funny. I have had the same experience. And you know what I found, too, was that sometimes I would put too many potatoes in.
Yeah.
And then all the potatoes were tiny.
Yeah.
And if I just put one potato in, the potatoes were bigger.
You get bigger ones. Yeah, that might have been what my problem was last year, because I think I cut them, but I put 4 different clumps in, and they all had at least 3 eyes.
Yeah, so it
might have just overwhelmed the bag.
Yeah, I think just one single potato in each bag should be fine. Okay,
so the soil that I've had in my potato bags last year, can I reuse them?
Well, you know what? I would definitely always recycle it, but if I was going to, say, get some new soil to do my flower pots, I would probably take that soil, put it in the flower pots, and take my new soil in any of these vegetable crops.
Okay.
It's just so that you're just starting fresh.
Okay, because that's a lot of soil to turf and try to incorporate when I don't have much grass garden area.
Yeah, and it's best to keep potting soil in pots.
Yeah.
So if you do, like I would get a huge pot somewhere and just dump it all into that and keep that as your storage, and then that way you never really throw it out. But if you start with new, because it doesn't do that good in the ground.
No,
actually.
No. Okay.
Alrighty.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Ronnie.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Right, take care. Bye-bye. Alrighty, so we are coming up to the end of the show here, and so it's been a really nice show. I really like this time of year, and all the things, especially talking about seeding. It's just exciting to think about those plants shooting up out of the ground and doing their thing. it's just a cool time of year. So hopefully you guys learned some things today, and I'm just going to go straight on to the tips and plants of the week. All right, now my tip of the week this week was that it's definitely the time to not plant certain types of plants, like plants that like basil I talked about earlier. Don't want to plant some things too early, but on the other hand, you have to know your plants so you can get the right ones, and it's definitely going to be one of those things that you will want to deal with at the appropriate time. So if you listen through today, you would have got some more detail on when to plant what, and what things need to get early and what things you want to do late. All right, and then so also watch your nighttime temperatures, because the nighttime temperatures definitely are going to be one of these things that will affect those plants. And it's really not the daytime temperature that matters; it's really the nighttime temperatures. So that's the most critical thing. So watch when your nighttime temperatures go below -5 or colder. That's when plants like bulbs and things that are shooting up will need to be protected, potentially with some little pots. I always like to just have a few pots laying around, and when I see things shooting up, that's great. I see the forecast is going to get cold, I put the pots over top of those plants, and then they're protected. So there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. Don't forget to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube. Alrighty, so that's it for the show today. Thanks so much for everyone who participated, and we'll see you again next week with more of The Garden.